Welcome to this course on Introduction to Backend Development in NodeJS. We will be walking ourselves through everything you need to begin this course, including tools and how to install them. We will dive head first into building a NodeJS server, a simple version to begin with. Then we would look at what NodeJS is and what it isn't. Before you begin this session, we expect that you have knowledge of JavaScript. If what you are seeing on your screen now looks familiar to you, we have an array of objects. We have a function that is performing a task, and we are calling that function on that array of objects. If this is looking familiar to you, then you are good to begin this session. We are also going to be using terminals a lot. So if this looks familiar to you and you are not intimidated by what you're seeing, it's also very good that you can join this session. We will be walking ourselves through learning more about JavaScript and more about terminal. So welcome to this session. For this session, we will be using a host of tools and documentation resources. We will be learning about Git and GitHub. Git is a version control tool, and GitHub is a hub for version control softwares. They are both built by the same company, and we will be using them extensively. You will need to create an account on GitHub to allow you walk through this course. We would also need a text editor or a code editor. In this class, I'll be using the VS Code, which is what you're seeing on your screen here. You can download VS Code from its website and install it onto your system. There are several versions for different operating systems, for Mac, Windows, and Linux, and you can also use it on the web if you don't want to install it on your system by visiting vscode.dev. To continue, we will be using Postman. Postman is our environment to test our APIs and whatever we are building so far. Postman has a host of tools that we can use to describe our APIs and understand what is going on underneath. Here is a sample of what Postman would look like when you have used it to make calls. In this case, I am making a GET request to this endpoint and I have sent it. Then you can see the result of this request here. At different points in time, we can get different data for this endpoint. Postman is very robust as it allows us to make HTTP requests using any of the methods, and we can customize our request and initialize different servers and data with it. We continue our conversation with other tools that we need. Because we are building for the web, we need to test our code at different instances. So we will be needing all and various types of browsers. Currently, I am on Chrome, and this is my primary browser for this session, I would expect you to have a Chrome browser, and to continue, I would expect you to have other browsers too to confirm that our system is working correctly. So find yourself and download the Firefox browser, the Opera browser, and any other browser you can lay your hands upon. Edge, Safari if you are on Mac, etc. like that. Finally, there are two resources that we'll be using extensively in this session to standardize our knowledge and serve as reference material. The first one is the MDN. The MDN is the Mozilla Developer Network and is a documentation for developers. Here you will find almost all content about web development here. You will find content on JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and others. We will be coming back here to confirm our knowledge and understand what we are missing. We would also be learning about APIs from learntoapi.com. This resource houses lots of content about APIs, how to design them, how to build them, how to test them, how to write them in different languages, and we will be using it a lot. Now that we understand what we need, let's dive into installing the tools. The first tool we want to install is the NodeJS running environment. So what we need to do is visit the NodeJS website. Here you will see that we have two things on our screen, the LTS and the current version. It is advised, and I recommend, that you utilize the LTS version. LTS here means long-term support. What that means is that for the next 5 years, that particular version of Node.js is going to be supported when there are breaking changes or when there are code bugs that needs to be fixed. But the latest version of Node.js is the 18.9.0, and this feature may contain some bugs, and it is much more for experts and people who are interested in the latest tools available in the ecosystem. So currently you are advised to download this Node.js. Once you download it, you are expected to double click on it. If you are on Windows, you open it up and double click on it. This should start the server, and all you need to do is click on next. Once you click on next, you are going to see this interface. This interface shows you what you need to set up your Node.js installation. At the center of my screen, you will see a wizard that says welcome to Node.js. You click on next and you accept the terms, and you keep clicking on next until you get to the end. I have already installed my own Node.js version, so I am going to start it up. I will start Node.js and confirm that the installation is complete by opening my terminal. To open your terminal, what you need to do is visit your file explorer, pictures, music, anywhere in your file explorer, your downloads, your desktop. Just visit anywhere in your file explorer. You can go to the top here in this menu bar, search bar here, and then type CMD. Then you press enter. Once you do this, your command prompt should pop up. Or go to the same place and type PowerShell. Once you do this, your PowerShell should pop up. Any of these that you have would work. Now that we have seen this, let's confirm that we have successfully installed our NodeJS run engine. For the PowerShell, what I am going to do is type node, N-O-D-E, and press enter. The version of Node I have is 14.17.4. If you see this and you are not getting an error, welcome to NodeJS. Then you have successfully installed Node. I will try the same thing with my command prompt. I will do Node and press enter. If you see the same message, then you have successfully installed Node. If any of these do not prompt, if you are seeing an error, a red line, or any other thing other than welcome to Node.js, then you have not successfully installed your Node environment, and you need to you would need to restart the download process from beginning. Now that you have done this, the next thing you need to confirm is your Git installation. First, you need to exit out of the Node environment. So here you will type Ctrl+C, Ctrl+C. This will ask you if you want to exit your Node environment that you have just created. You will type the Ctrl+C again. This will exit your Node environment. You come here, Ctrl+C. It will ask you if you want to exit the Node environment. Then you type the Ctrl+C again. Now that you have done this, you visit the Node.js and Git website. On the Git website, you will download the Git for your operating system. I am on Windows. I have a 64-bit system, so I am going to download this 64-bit version here. Once I have downloaded it, the process should repeat itself. So you should be able to double click on the downloaded file, just like I am doing here, and start the installation process. What you will now get is this interface that you have here, and this interface will help you to continue the process. First, you need to accept the information that you are seeing on screen. Once you click on next and you continue, it will install Git for you. I have already installed Git, so I don't need to continue my own setup. So how do I confirm that Git has been installed successfully on my system? We will continue with our command prompt, and what we will do right now is to type Git and press enter. As you can see here, it is saying that Git is not recognized in this place, so that means there is an error. If I check my PowerShell and I type Git, it is also saying that Git is not recognized here. What next you can do is go to your desktop, right click on it and see if Git is installed. If you type in your Explorer and see if Git is installed on the system. If you keep encountering this error, you can complete the installation of your Git by clicking next, yes, and just keep clicking next until you get to the end of this process. At this point, Git will complete its installation and we would then be able to confirm if Git has successfully installed on our system. As you can see here, I would launch my Git bash. This should open an environment for me to be able to play around. This black interface is the Git bash I just installed. When I type Git now and press enter, you can see I am no longer seeing that error message. This confirms to me that Git has successfully installed on our system. We can now go back to our terminal. Here, if you type Git, you can see that the error which came earlier has now disappeared. So we have successfully installed Git on this system. Yeah. Alright. At this point, we have successfully installed NodeJS and Git onto our system. We can then proceed to building a simple server. To start off, we need to create a folder. So let's get into our system. Let's create a folder. So here we would create a new folder in our desktop. The folder, let's call it simple server. Simple server. S. So we have this empty folder. I am going to drag this folder into my VS Code. This should allow me to, yes, I trust the author of this folder. So you can see my simple folder is what? Empty. What I am going to do next is to create a file. I'm going to create a file called app.js. This will serve as my base file for the server I am going to create. Because I have installed Node, I am able to call the HTTP protocol that exists in the Node.js package. This gives me access to the HTTP protocol. I am going to use this protocol and in conjunction with my host server, let me use localhost for the host, and I have a port. Let me use a port of 8080. This serves as my base for where clients can connect to my server. Now, I would move on to create a listener that would wait for the request from my clients. I am going to create a request listener. This listener will be a function. This function will take the request and response parameter. It is going to write the response of 200, and it is going to end the request by saying, yeah, this is our simple server. Alright, now that we have the simple server, we proceed to starting up this server by doing our server, and let's create that server now with our HTTP request dot create server. This server will collect that listener, and then it will start listening for it by doing server.listen. We will pass in our port of 8080. We will pass in our host address, and we will pass in an anonymous inner function, which is a lambda function in this case, or an arrow function. And this arrow function will just say to us that our server is running on a particular port. So here I am going to use the template literals of the host versus the port. Alright, so I am going to utilize a template literal here to interpolate our variables declared above. Before I proceed, let me format this document so that it is visible and legible. Alright, now that we have this, and we can test our server to see that it is working correctly. So how do we do that? I am going to open my terminal into this folder. So notice I am using the PowerShell here, and we have confirmed from before that our PowerShell can identify and see our NodeJS server. So I'm going to do node. So let me first of all see that the content here is our app.js file that we have just created. Now I am going to do node of app.js. If everything is written correctly, this should start our server. Luckily, everything is not as we expect it to be, so we are getting our first error. As a good software engineer, we will then investigate what this error is. Here, we are reading our error message that says permission is denied at the port we supplied, which is 8080. Since this permission is denied, we would need to change our port. So let me try 8090. This error would usually occur if another server is already operating at that port that we supplied. So we have another port of 8090. Let's try that again. Okay, so successfully we have been able to start our server. It is saying our server, as you can see on line 13, is running. So what we are going to do is put our cursor on this link. We should give us a link here, and we can then follow our server. Here you would now notice that it says our server is running on port 8090 in the Chrome environment. Successfully, we have been able to achieve our simple server. What is happening in this code, and why have we written it this way? We would investigate that and dive deeper into it in subsequent sessions of our course. Before we proceed, let's also confirm that we can talk to this server from our postman. So I am going to copy that address from our Chrome browser and give it to postman as our endpoint, and then I am going to send it. Yes, we are getting here 200 status, which is success, in a time of 27 milliseconds, and we are getting this is our simple server message back to us. This shows that we have successfully run our simple server. We can then proceed to talking about what is NodeJS. This is us taking a step back to look at the idea of NodeJS. The main idea of NodeJS is that it is a non-blocking, event-driven I/O that remains lightweight and efficient in the face of data-intensive real-time applications that run across distributed devices. The entire idea of this is that Node.js has specific cases and instances where you need to use them. If you are building real-time applications like chat systems, like streaming services, Netflix, if you are building open socket systems where you need to open connection and relay information to these systems, if you are building systems like streaming services, then you need and can use Node.js. It works efficiently in this environment. Node.js doesn't work so well in an environment where you need to compute every mechanics, every engineering. If you are trying to perform computations of travel or every engineering computations or database every transactions, you may want to avoid Node.js and its implementation. But then that doesn't deride or reduce the capability of Node.js. Node.js have been used in the world to build banking systems, to build aerodynamic systems for the aviation industry, to build heavy machinery tools. So if Node.js can work in this environment, we believe Node.js works in all environments. You should know the capabilities of Node.js and know how to apply it in different systems. To proceed, we say that on the server, when you need to use Node.js to connect to build systems, we have different capabilities that is effective. Let's take a simple instance. Let's take a simple instance of chat applications, which are usually multi-user, like when you are playing games with your friend. And these chat applications usually require back and forth in communication, in sending messages, in playing videos, in streaming live events. For all these instances, Node.js excel excellently. Now, to wrap up this session, we have some quizzes that you'd need to research. We have discussed some of these ideas in this session, and we would dive deeper in later sessions. We also have some tasks. Your goal is to rebuild our server by yourself by walking through what we have done here. Make sure that this code runs successfully on your system. To wrap up this session, you are advised to perform this research and understand how these actions are working in the real world.